Well, both my parents were immigrants, and they want their children to be successful, which usually means making some money. and then I wanted to be an artist even back then, and my mother tried to make a compromise with my father, who thought I should just get a job, and he says, well, maybe he could be an architect. But I didn't do that. What I seem to have done is to gone into teaching, and I became fairly successful doing that. And I don't teach anymore, but at California Institute of the Arts, I was very instrumental in their program, and so a lot of well-known artists like David Sally and Matt Mullican and Tony Ausler were students of mine. I think I have a pretty good reputation for doing that, but I don't teach anymore.
What was the early fascination? You said that already as a child you knew you wanted to be an artist. What was it that fascinated you about art?
I guess I was in grade school, secondary schools. I was always selected by the art teacher to do some special project, like Thanksgiving Day or Independence Day, and I made a big mural on the wall. So I think that recognition gave me the courage, to sort of then go on.
But looking back at the history of art, did you have idols, and why, and whom?
Sure. One hero always was Giotto, and if you go in my studio next door, you'll see a lot of paintings dealing with elements of Giotto's paintings from the Arena Chapel in Padua, and Mantegna was always a big influence on me. I suppose like that.
So why did you decide to give up painting then?
Well, because of the Sony Potopac. And then all kinds of other things became possible, that you began to hear this term conceptual art, which I was part of, and where you did art with other means other than painting. And so the whole culture had moved on. If one looks at it just like where you're trying to produce an image, it's a lot faster. And you can also deal with time. I've got to say a lot of the early art by video was pretty boring because it was either 30 minutes long or an hour long, because that's the size of the reel of tape, and nobody did editing at that time. But things have changed quite a bit since then, of course.
And what is it that fascinates you about images? Because afterwards you kind of collected images and you reassessed them and you put your own objects into them.
I think two interests of mine have always been language and imagery in combination. And I think that explains probably all of my work, that I always put a word or a phrase with the imagery. I mean, these works by Giotto I referred to, each one, they're all printed purple, and each one, the text underneath is a different word for purple, lavender, so on. And I continue to do that.
And then you have a special love to movie images. You collected quite a lot. I saw this work where you kind of collected romantic images and violent images. And what is it that's fascinated you so much about movies? Or movie images?
I think years ago, I was in a bookstore in Hollywood, but I was even interested in movies then for some reason. Anyway, they sold 8 by 10 glossies from movies, and I would spend, till I got exhausted, maybe an hour, just picking any image that looked, I think maybe I can use this. And then I'd come back to my studio and lay them out and say, I have a lot of tables. And then I began to group them. So one of the first ones, interesting, were people kissing. But you get the idea, or a person doing this, person doing that. And then I use that as source material for my work.
Let me ask you about Los Angeles, because you kind of, everybody who hears your name as other artists, they speak of you as kind of the not the grandfather, but the grandmaster of they admire you quite a lot. How did the city of Los Angeles shape the artist John Baldessari?
Shape the artist John?
Or influence? Are you an LA artist?
I always hated that term, because I never had any recognition as an artist from the museums. I had more recognition in New York. So I didn't like being called a Los Angeles artist, because I think my perception of Los Angeles is it's very ugly. But that's attractive too. It's very seductive that it's ugly. My work really comes out of not so much Los Angeles, but that feeling of it's really distasteful for me to think about.
Why is art still, or even getting more important in society? Why is it an important part of society?
Well, two good things. No, not too good, but one good thing is that it seems to be a nutritional need for the public. We build museums and put what somebody decides is art. We put that in there for people to go there with their kids, and they look at it and listen to an explanation on their iPhone and so on. So that's good. The bad thing is, the connection with money now, and so I think they'll go into a museum and say, think about, well, that Rembrandt, how much money it must cost if somebody were to buy it. So that's, they're looking at it with the wrong eyes or wrong values.
What keeps you kind of driving? I mean, I think you're 86 now.
Yes.
And surely you could say, okay, I've done my work of art. I just, enjoy the day. But you come here every day in the studio. You keep on working. Why is that? What drives you on?
Well, probably only a psychiatrist could tell me that, but I think it's as necessary to me as breathing. It's who I am. I can't imagine a life without doing art. I mean, I wake up thinking about art. I think about it all day long and go to sleep at night thinking about art. And in the shower, driving, that's what I do.